We'll put the microphone a little bit closer to the center here, so we'll be super sure we're getting all the action. We didn't have it in the center earlier because we wanted to like have the gameplay be center stage, but now we got the microphone in, so you can see. Anyone who wasn't part of this investigation wants to watch, of course, they can watch too. So okay, we're gonna lead with like some basic questions. Floor judges in this call, if you were gonna put a percentage on it, did I cheat in this game? What percentage sure would you be?
Mayor?
No, that's the question.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you wanted someone else to start first.
Yeah, both you guys, that's the question.
Before finding out the other HC, I said like 30, and I stick to
Okay.
that. After finding out the other HC, I actually think 10%.
All right, so we're 70% David cheated.
Based on the information that I was given, I am still not really convinced that it is cheating.
You're not convinced. Give a percentage.
Percentage.
Yeah.
10, 15%.
15% David was cheating. All right. Opponent, if you were a judge taking this call,
I can't be impartial.
Yeah. Okay. So both me and Jesse know the truth, which is that David did cheat. This tormenting voice drew 3 cards. That is a fact. You will never be this sure about whether or not you got a cheating call right in your entire rest of your judge career.
As in, you'll never be more sure than you were right now?
No, like you'll never know 100%. Right now, you know 100% that you know I did actually cheat on the tormenting voice, but you will never be 100% sure in the rest of your judge career, and that's something y'all are gonna have to be like familiar with, and something you're gonna have to become comfortable with the idea of.
Is the percent more than 0 and you started investigating for cheating?
Oh, yeah, it's out of the area.
Yeah.
And you should probably pull the trigger then.
So okay, now we're going to talk about some techniques you guys did in your investigation and what I liked and what I didn't like and maybe what I would have done. So okay, so like first impressions, like right out of the gate. Okay, yeah, because we might need the board state for this also. This was my hand, by the way.
For anyone watching, this started with Carl and I. Carl began answering, and then when he stumbled for a while, I was like, "Do you mind if I take over?"
Yeah, and it was a complicated call. It was interesting. Okay, so
Sorry if I overstepped, by the way.
No, that's fine.
Number one, excellent job with the card counting. You were able to correctly identify that I did have 1 extra card in hand. I mulliganed, which made it harder for you. If you had not been on top of that, had not like asked to know the correct number of cards that were in my opening hand, that's something that could have very easily disguised the fact that I had more cards than I was supposed to have. You did a great job going through the process with me and Jesse. The scry on the bottom, that was an excellent one. Being able to confirm that this card, or being pretty sure that this card on the bottom is the card that I was scrying. You identified that as a potential way that I could have had extra cards in my hands, and that was a great thing you did to rule that out. I was very impressed by that. That's excellent. Jesse, have you got any you would like to add in this situation?
I mean, the things that were mechanical, straightforward, were like count and the card on the bottom was good stuff. The questions were good. I'm glad that you saw the tormenting voice and yeah, they could have been blue cards.
Yeah.
You asked about it, and that was good.
Yeah, you spotted the that's another good thing that I had left out. You spotted the potential problem of the tormenting voice right away, and you were able to use that in your investigation.
You double checked to make sure like this didn't draw extra cards and stuff. Like you were thorough.
Yeah.
Definitely got the crown counter.
So that was great. Stuff that I think would have been clues that could have led you guys to the right answer. Okay, number one, the most obvious one was the one that you guys found, which was that I had the same infraction earlier today with the tormenting voice. Okay, so that's obviously suspicious. As you said, John, and correctly, I will add. And Zach also pointed out, just because someone makes the same error twice in a row doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to be cheating, but at the same time, it's something that you can like add more suspicion points to. Okay, so that was point number one. Point number two, Dave being a competitive guy during this event, and that was something that I intentionally was putting into my character throughout the day today. There were a couple of instances. For example, one when I made some rather unkind comments in the beginning of round one.
Yeah.
At my opponent, who those were kind of disparaging towards his play skill ability. Going off and wandering around instead of like being part of the tournament during round 3, which was my first loss of the day. talking a little bit of smack during and between rounds. Those were all intentional character developments that I put into my character today in order to solidify the point that I am a really competitive guy and this tournament means a whole lot to me. So that was good. You definitely had picked up on some of those, and I'm glad that you brought that into your decision-making process. Point number 3, and this is one that that you had touched on, but you didn't follow through as much as you could have, which is how did you draw with the tormenting voice? So the way that I demonstrated with the tormenting voice was to draw like this, right? Okay, so and that is in fact a true representation of how I drew with that specific tormenting voice that's in my graveyard right now. Jesse was also there. You could have asked him and gotten him to confirm that was what I did, which would have been a good thing to do. But another thing you could have done is you could have asked if I had played tormenting voice in this game before. Now that would have been a really interesting conversation for you guys to have, because I don't know if Jesse remembers how I resolved the tormenting voice that I played in game 1, which was like this.
Yeah, you did it. You did it definitely differently.
So I resolved the tormenting voice by putting the 2 cards face down and then putting them in my hand, which was a different and much less error-prone way. But in game 1, I wasn't trying to cheat. Whereas in game 2, I was trying to cheat.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Should we have gotten the head judge a lot faster? Or should we have initiated our...
Do you? At what point did you begin to believe that I was cheating, or could have potentially been cheating?
I believe the potential existed once we determined that the count was 12.
Okay.
And I believe I should have gotten the head judge first before starting an investigation, and instead did the investigation preliminary first.
I'll probably agree with what
I
you said.
would think as soon as we found out the count was off is where we should have probably got the head judge.
Yeah, I think that's a reason.
The only benefit to, I think, the way that we did it is we got a response from you, and then you had to repeat that response to a second judge, which could have potentially opened you up to be inconsistent. But that wasn't, I will admit, not the thing I was thinking of when I made that decision.
So from my perspective of things, I'm very glad you grabbed me when you did, because that way I have something to gauge off of, specifically with your comment about he's already said this once. If he says this again to me differently and you're able to confirm that, then we're going to have an issue. And I feel that the timing of that was very well done, because if I came in with less information, I'm in a much harder spot, especially when it comes to determining cheating, because I have to hit all 3 of those points. I would have been, no, this is absolutely not cheating, rather than actually considering it, based on that, even with committing the same error twice. So having better information is always a good thing. So make sure you're thorough with that, which is what you were.
So yeah, I think that if you ask like 100 really experienced judges in the program at what point during this, and that'd be a really interesting thing to maybe show this film. This will be put up online. If we were to show this tape and ask a bunch of really experienced judges, at what point in this tape would you get a head judge involved? I think you wouldn't get a bunch of answers all the same. I think you would probably get like a few specific points in the investigation that would have like some representatives, but I don't think you'd get a consensus by any means. So that's the third one, and then the fourth thing that you could have, I suppose, like used for your investigation skills. You knew that I played the tormenting voice, right? Like in your head, if I was going to draw an extra card, it would have been the tormenting voice drawing the extra card, right? All right. So that's kind of a thing that you have an idea about, right? Now, one thing that like if you're a judge and you're talking to a player, a lot of really great information can be had just by asking the player what the answer to the question is. And if you're in a spot, which you were, if you're in a spot where you're like, okay, I think Dave either cheated or he didn't cheat, and that's the only real question that we have, right? And you guys, in your investigation, you came up with that. You came up with, okay, he either did this on purpose or he didn't. So one thing that can be very, very get a lot of good information out of is if you outright confront somebody. Be like, hey, Dave, I think that when you played that tormenting voice, you drew 3 cards, and maybe you didn't realize, maybe you weren't going for drawing 3 cards at the time, but I think you drew 3 cards and you didn't call a judge on yourself when you did it. Am I wrong? And that's the sort of thing. Like if you think about what you would do if you were a person playing in a tournament and a judge asks you that question. Like that's going to be a really stressful question, and that's really great for you if you're an investigator, because if you have a really stressful situation that you're putting a person into, that makes it a lot harder to come up with a convincing lie on the spot. Because if you're a cheater or an opportunistic cheater, you probably like haven't thought, what am I going to say if someone asks me what I did? So you would be thinking. So the reaction that you get from that is going to be a lot of really excellent information as far as what the answer that you would come up with. So that's something, and it's not fun. It's not fun to look someone in the eye and say, hey, did you cheat? But like, at the same time, that's why we go to these events. That's why we have the official uniform things, and that's the sort of questions that you have to be comfortable asking someone. And maybe comfortable isn't the best word, because it is going to be an uncomfortable conversation. And maybe afterwards you can mitigate it with some like, hey, I know that was intense back there, but I'm here to protect the integrity of this event, and I got to make sure that I do this investigation and go through with as much rigor as I need to in order to be comfortable making a decision. And like players will understand that. Like if you come at it from the point of, hey, something happened and we want to make sure that we get the right things handle this correctly, they'll understand.
So here's the question.
Yeah.
If we suspect cheating,
Yeah.
do we just move forward with that at that point, or like we were talking with the percentage?
Yeah.
So, suspecting, absolutely, you perform the investigation.
Well, I'm talking about when do you start pushing forward to like moving in that direction?
All right. So
Because you said you're not going to ever hit 100%.
no. That's another thing. If you asked a bunch of judges, you would probably get a bunch of different answers on. Is like, what percent sure would you have to be in order to pull the trigger on cheating? My personal one is that I have to believe that it's more likely that they cheated than they didn't cheat in order to pull the trigger. That I think is a good one. Some judges will say like, oh, if you're 5%, that's enough. If you're 1%, then that's enough. I don't. I don't have that opinion. If anyone is watching and you want to talk more about this, for sure, message me and we can talk about it. But the idea is this: cheating is a really serious thing to accuse someone of. Cheating is a very serious thing to go through. If you're a player, getting DQ'd for cheating is actually an extremely traumatic experience.
Especially if you actually weren't.
Yeah, especially if you actually weren't. And so, like, as a result of that, the integrity of the tournament is great, but if I think it's literally more likely that they didn't cheat than they did, then why am I acting as though they did? That's my personal philosophy on that. Other people will have different views, but it's something you're going to have to come to a decision on for yourself, because everybody has to make that sort of decision.
Absolutely.
At some point in their career. So yeah, that was my thoughts in that investigation. Overall, I thought it was really well done. Of course, you unfortunately did not pull the trigger when it would have been appropriate to, but that mirrors the real world situation where you will never be 100% sure. And if you come up with a situation in the future, hopefully this experience will give you some additional tools that you can use to have more certainty than you would have had.
I now know what better to look for and what better questions to ask.
Yeah, and so that's another really important thing with investigations is you have to like think in your head what you think happened. Then you have to come up with some ideas about what information could I get that would either prove or disprove this thing that I think happened. And that's like your idea, or that's like the general idea of investigations. And being a good investigator is having a good way to go through those types of questions and thinking of good questions that you can ask that will give you that information that can prove or disprove. Because I think a lot of the questions, there certainly were some questions in the investigation where like it doesn't matter what I say, that's not going to change what the answer in your head should be.
Yeah.
So like that, and that's an important thing for like the timeliness, because if you are on a time budget, so you have to go through and reach a reasonable degree of certainty within a reasonable amount of time. And so that's a thing that I think really good investigators are better at than people who are just starting out, is being able to go through those questions and like not have as many extraneous ones that aren't really going to affect their decision or their opinion one way or another. But overall, yeah, I thought that was really good. Any other questions that you want to talk about?
In particular at the moment.
All right.
There could be some down the line though.
Yeah, well, feel free to reach out to me. You can always do that. You've got my email address.
I would like to add in that if we weren't very sure at some point, then another person who we should have talked to is your opponent in the round in which you previously got used.
Yeah. Personally, for something like that, I would wait until after the call was over, and then if you get some suspicious stuff from the opponent previously that makes you really, feel less good about it, that's, you can always come back and be like, hey, we talked to some other people and we came up with some new information. We're going to need to have another serious conversation about what's going to happen.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah.